Here's a guy who thinks science is on the side of his religion.
First thing is that born and raised, I'm an atheist. Yep. Like, I have never had faith in a higher power during my life.
Right?
I do not have faith in the Bible as a source. What proof do you have outside of that?
Good. The first piece of evidence, not proof, but the first piece of evidence that points me to God is order and design do not come out of chaos by chance.
Right.
When was there ever chaos? By definition, the laws of physics are not defied at any time or in any place. Cliff seems to think that there was a time when there was chaos followed by a time when there was order. There wasn't. Apologists who make this argument seem to think that chaos is the default state of reality, and not only can you not change from chaos to order by chance, which isn't true by the way, it's very improbable but not impossible, you also can't have order at all without a conscious mind deliberately imposing it. This is a baseless assumption.
Order and design point to some type of intelligent mind.
Design already implies intelligence, so you're begging the question by saying that there's design, therefore there was a designer. Also, there's no reason to think that order points to intelligence. This, again, assumes that chaos is the default state of reality.
Biology student myself.
Yes.
I'm a firm believer in kind of principles of evolution.
Good.
That kind of thing.
Let me just hop quickly on though.
Yeah.
Where is the creative mechanism in evolution?
Mutation. That's how new genes are created. Ironically, it's a pretty chaotic mechanism rather than an orderly one.
Because I believe in evolution as a process. But where is the creative mechanism in evolution?
I don't think I fully understand the question, but
How do you get something from nothing in evolution?
There never was nothing, so you don't need to get something from it. There was never a time when there wasn't something. This should be obvious because time is something, and there's never been a time when time did not exist. Even though time does not stretch infinitely into the past, it makes no sense to say that it was preceded by nothing because time itself can't be preceded at all.
The thing is that it didn't come from nothing. I forgot the exact title of the experiment, but there is this idea that the primordial soup, right?
Yeah.
The oceans of a primordial Earth with...
Sure, I think we can bring this one to a conclusion fairly quickly. I am convinced that before the Big Bang, there was nothing.
Well, then you don't understand what the Big Bang was. It looks as though time itself began at the Big Bang. If that's the case, then there was never any such thing as before the Big Bang. But even if time did precede the Big Bang, that would mean that there was time before the Big Bang rather than nothing. Either way you look at it, there was never nothing. There has always been something.
Right.
Okay, and that's what Einstein acknowledged.
Citation needed. I doubt Einstein ever said that, but if he did, I'd like to see the context. The only sense in which you can coherently say there was nothing before the Big Bang is if you mean that there wasn't anything before the Big Bang, not even time. But that's not how apologists seem to mean it. Frank Turek, for example, claims that there was a state of non-existence before the Big Bang, and there was a change from that state of non-existence. This doesn't make any sense because, firstly, non-existence is not a state, and secondly, a change is a difference between one point in time and a subsequent point in time. In order for there to be a change from a state of non-existence to a state of existence, time would have to have existed in a state of non-existence, which is clearly a contradiction.
And that's why Einstein tried to beat the Big Bang mathematically.
No, he didn't. I think this dude is thinking of the cosmological constant that Einstein introduced to avoid the conclusion that the universe is either expanding or contracting, which is implied by relativity, although it didn't imply which. He didn't do this to try to beat the Big Bang, however, because he came up with the cosmological constant 10 years before the Big Bang theory was ever invented.
And he introduced a fudge factor to try and prove that the Big Bang was not true.
No, he didn't. The Big Bang hadn't even been proposed yet. Relativity implied that the universe was either expanding or contracting, and Einstein introduced his fudge factor to explain what everyone at the time assumed to be a static universe. It wasn't until later that the universe was shown to be expanding, and the Big Bang theory was inferred from that.
Because Einstein understood, if the Big Bang is true, my pantheism, which means everything is God, is wrong.
That's not why Einstein introduced the cosmological constant. This is well-poisoning nonsense. Cliff wants you to think that Einstein put his religious views above sound scientific conclusions, which is rich coming from an apologist. And the Big Bang would not even disprove pantheism, because it doesn't point to the existence of anything independent of the universe like many apologists insist it does.
There's a creator, Because everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning, therefore the universe has a cause.
Not everything which has a beginning has a cause. For example, time can't have a cause. It doesn't make sense, if time has a beginning, that time has a cause, because you can't cause something to exist at a time when it already exists, and there was never a time when time itself didn't already exist, despite the fact that it doesn't stretch infinitely into the past.
And it's far more reasonable to believe in the beginning an intelligent mind caused it than to believe nothing caused it.
How could an intelligent mind exist independent of space and time? It's not clear what it means to say that anything exists independent of space and time, but especially not an intelligent mind, because a mind is also dependent upon a brain of some kind. It is a material phenomenon and therefore cannot exist without matter.
Right. And that's philosophically unacceptable. Bang! What caused that? Nothing.
The Big Bang is simply the earliest moment of the expansion of the universe. This has always been occurring. The universe has never been static. As Newton discovered, objects in motion will stay in motion, and objects at rest will stay at rest. To look at something that has always been in motion and ask what caused it to move is like looking at an object which has always been at rest and asking what caused it to stop. Just as objects that have always been at rest don't need a cause for their state of rest, objects that have always been in motion don't need a cause for their state of motion.
That is stupidity. Rank stupidity.
He's thinking of the Big Bang as though there was a time when nothing was happening, followed by a time when the universe suddenly started expanding. If that's what happened, then it would make total sense to infer that something caused the Big Bang. But that's not what happened. There was never a time, for as long as time has existed, when the universe wasn't moving. Since that's the case, its movement does not need a cause.
Everything that has a beginning has a cause.
Time looks like it had a beginning, but not only did it not have a cause, it couldn't coherently have a cause.
The universe has a beginning, therefore the universe has a cause. What is the best answer to the question, who caused the universe?
The best answer is to point out the question's incoherence. The universe is the space-time continuum. You can't cause something to exist at a time when it already exists, and there was never a time when the space-time continuum didn't already exist.
In that case, it would be God, right?
Yeah, God is the most reasonable explanation.
How could an incoherent explanation be a reasonable one?
Then what is our explanation for the beginning of God?
Great question. It is idolatry to think God has a beginning.
If you believe that space-time has a beginning, then you believe God has a beginning. Because in order for something that exists to not have a beginning, it would have had to exist for an infinite amount of time. If there hasn't been an infinite amount of time, then nothing can be beginningless, not even God.
Because the God who has revealed himself through Jesus Christ has revealed himself as eternal.
Eternal would mean that he has existed for an infinite amount of time. Since you think space-time had a beginning, you can't coherently also believe that anything is eternal.
So when I begin to say, well, who created God? It means I don't understand who God has revealed himself to be. Nobody created God because God does not have a beginning.
How could he lack a beginning if he hasn't existed for an infinite amount of time?
Remember, I didn't say everything has a cause. I said everything that has a beginning has a cause. God is eternal, so God does not have a cause. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and in that case, that's kind of my view for, well, existence itself without a creator. Because God does not have a cause,
Right?
and, well, we exist, so how is it so much more to believe that existence itself does not have a cause?
Because existence cannot come out of non-existence.
And it didn't. There never was non-existence. There was never a time when there was complete and total non-existence. It would be a contradiction to say that there was ever a time when there was complete non-existence, because you're starting the sentence with the assertion that time existed. It would also be a contradiction to say that there was non-existence before time, because the phrase before time is self-contradictory.
But God can.
No, God doesn't come out of anything.
Neither did the universe. What do you think the universe came out of? You assert that something can't come from nothing, but you also seem to believe in creation ex nihilo. If something can't come from nothing, how did God get anything out of nothing?
See, there's nothing before God that God comes out of.
And there's nothing before the universe that the universe comes out of.
Because God is eternal. No beginning, no end. But everything that has a beginning, like this guy and me, there's got to be a cause for him and me, because we definitely have a beginning. And we're getting a little older, so we're not going to be around a lot longer, okay?
Now Cliff's just trying to win me over with good news.
But we have a beginning, which means there's got to be a cause for this dude and for this dude.
Yeah, we have a beginning because we haven't existed for an infinite amount of time. If time itself hasn't existed for an infinite amount of time, which would be the case if the universe has a beginning, then if a God exists, he hasn't existed for an infinite amount of time either. If time itself has a beginning, nothing is eternal. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.